I, 32 male, am a project manager for a logistics firm, the kind of guy who keeps his head down, avoids unnecessary drama, and prides himself on being steady. My wife works in PR, a high-stress environment that thrives on image, perception, and spin. For the last 5 years, things were solid between us. Not fireworks every single day, but steady, reliable, and comfortable. Or so I thought. Then she decided she wanted to get in wedding shape for her best friend's nuptials. That's when she hired him, her trainer. He wasn't just a gym employee. He was an independent wellness coach who charged a premium for what he called holistic support. I met him once early on. He was about 25, had 0 body fat, and shook my hand with that overcompensated alpha male grip that usually screams insecurity. I didn't care at the time. If she wanted to get fit and feel good about herself, good for her. I paid the invoices without looking too closely because I trusted her. The shift in her behavior was subtle at first. It started with the new wardrobe, tight, expensive athletic where she'd wear around the house, but strangely never seemed to get sweaty in. Then the phone habits changed. Her screen was always facing down on the table. She started taking work calls in the bathroom with the fan on. The night everything shattered was a Tuesday. We were watching a movie, the room dark, her phone resting on the arm of the sofa between us. It buzzed, and the screen lit up like a spotlight in the dim room. 11:14 p.m. Sender, the trainer. Message, can't wait to see you sweat tomorrow. With a red set. It motivates me, winky face. I froze. The winky face. The comment on her clothes. The time of night. I picked up the phone before she could grab it. I didn't unlock it. The notification on the lock screen was enough. I asked her, keeping my voice surprisingly steady, why he was asking her to wear specific clothes at midnight. She snatched the phone away, her face flushing, but it wasn't with shame. It was annoyance. She rolled her eyes, a gesture so dismissive it felt like a physical slap. She told me to stop, that I was reading way too much into it. She said it was motivational, that it was his brand, and that he pushes boundaries to get results. I pointed out that he was talking about her clothes and winking at her. She snapped back, standing up and turning off the TV, telling me he helps her with her fitness journey and treats all his clients like friends. Then she dropped a line that stuck with me. You're being insecure and controlling. Honestly, it's unattractive. You're overreacting. She stood there, waiting for me to apologize. That was our dynamic. She would gaslight, I would fold, and we would move on. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the contempt in her eyes. She didn't respect me. She thought I was safe, predictable, and weak. Something in my chest went cold. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. I put my hands up and told her she was right. I said I was overreacting and that I was sorry. She smirked, a victory lap in facial form, and went to bed. I didn't sleep. Instead, I opened my laptop. If fitness journeys were the new standard for appropriate behavior, I needed to get on one. But I wasn't going to a commercial gym down the street where she trained. I searched for exclusive, serious training facilities across town, the kind where bodybuilders and athletes went, not influencers. I found a warehouse gym 40 minutes away. No AC iron plates, serious clientele. I signed up online at 2 a.m. Then I looked at their trainer roster. I didn't want a guy. I wanted to mirror the situation, exactly to see if her logic held up. I found my new trainer. She was a former figure competitor, a certified biomechanics specialist, and absolutely stunning in a terrifying Amazonian way. Her rates were double what my wife was paying. I booked a consultation for the next day. For the next 3 months, I lived a double life. I left work early, drove across town, and got absolutely destroyed by my new trainer. She didn't text me winky faces. She texted me macro plans and threats about what would happen if I skipped leg day. I dropped 20 pounds of fat and put on muscle I didn't know I was capable of building. At home, I was a ghost. I stopped asking my wife about her day. I stopped asking about her training. When she mentioned her trainer, I just smiled and said, "That's great, honey." I became the perfect compliant roommate. She loved it. She thought she had won. She thought she had trained me just like she was being trained. She had no idea I was waking up at 4:30 a.m. to meal prep. so I could hide the containers at the back of the fridge. She didn't notice my clothes getting tighter in the shoulders because she barely looked at me anymore. She was too busy texting him. Then came the credit card bill. I usually handle the finances, but we have a joint account for household expenses. I noticed a withdrawal of $400 labeled consultation, then another for $200 labeled supplements. I cross-referenced the dates. They matched times. She said she was at late meetings for work. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed leverage. I needed nuclear-grade ammunition. My new trainer had a significant social media following, about 150K followers. She rarely posted clients unless they made serious progress. 3 months in, I hit a personal best on the deadlift, 405 pounds. She said we were filming it because I'd earned it. She set up the tripod. I pulled the weight. It moved smooth. I locked it out, dropped it, and turned to the camera, adrenaline pumping. My new trainer jumped into the frame, high-fiving me, her arm around my shoulder, squeezing my bicep. She captioned it, Beast Mode Unlocked, and tagged me. I accepted the tag. I went home that night, showered, and sat in the living room reading a book. My wife walked in, her face pale, her phone clutched in her hand like a weapon. She didn't say hello. She didn't take off her coat. She shoved the screen in my face and hissed, asking who the woman was. It was the Instagram story. Me, looking bigger than I ever had, with a gorgeous woman hanging off my shoulder, celebrating my success. I looked at the photo, then at her, and calmly said, That's just my trainer. She's helping me with my fitness journey. The silence that followed was heavy. My wife stared at me, tried to process the visual disconnect between the husband she thought she had, the soft corporate guy, and the man on the screen. She asked since when I had a trainer, and why she was touching me like that. I marked my page in the book and set it down. I told her it had been about 3 months. I said I took her advice, decided to stop overreacting and focus on bettering myself. I told her she was right, and that it had been great for my mental health. She started screaming that this was different. She pointed at the screen, yelling that my trainer was practically naked and all over me. I reminded her she was wearing a sports bra and shorts in the gym, celebrating a PR. I told her it was motivational and part of her brand. I recited her own words back to her with surgical precision. She didn't catch the irony, or maybe she did, and that's what infuriated her. Entitlement blinds people to their own hypocrisy. She demanded I fire her immediately, claiming it was disrespectful to our marriage and that she didn't feel comfortable with me spending time with a woman who looked like that. I stood up, wearing a fitted t-shirt now, and told her I couldn't do that. I'd paid for a package in advance, and she was the best in the city. I asked if she wanted me to be healthy. She stomped her foot and forbade it, threatening that if I went back to her, I shouldn't bother coming home. I just said, okay, walked past her, went to the guest bedroom, and locked the door. I heard her pounding on the wood for 10 minutes, screaming about how I was a narcissist and gaslighting her. The projection was astounding. The next day, the war began. She didn't just give me the silent treatment. She launched a smear campaign. I started getting texts from her mother, her sisters, even a mutual friend. Her mom texted saying she never thought I was the type to stray and that I needed to fix this. My wife had told them I was having an affair. She spun the narrative that I was neglecting her, spending our savings on other women, and emotionally abusing her. She was playing the victim card with incredible commitment, but she made a mistake. She got sloppy. I went to the bank the next morning and requested a detailed breakdown of the joint account transactions for the last 6 months. While the teller printed them, I checked the phone bill. We were on a family plan. I could see the call logs and text timestamps. The logs were a roadmap of betrayal. Hundreds of texts to her trainer between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Calls that lasted an hour while I was at work. But the bank statements were the smoking gun. There were charges at a local boutique hotel. 3 of them, $180 each. The dates aligned perfectly with the nights she claimed she was staying late at the office for crisis management. I felt a strange sense of detachment. The pain was there, but the anger had crystallized into a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't going to just divorce her. I was going to dismantle her reality. I called a lawyer I knew from college, a shark named David who specialized in high-asset divorces. I told him I needed to know my standing. David looked at the statements and told me that in our state, while adultery affects things, the big one is dissipation of marital assets. If she used community funds to facilitate an affair, that's considered theft in the eyes of the divorce court. We could claw that back from her share of the equity. He told me to hire a PI to get undeniable proof because the hotel charges weren't enough. She claimed they were for work. I hired the PI that afternoon. 2 days later, I came home to find my clothes in garbage bags on the front lawn. My wife was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. Her trainer was parked in the driveway in his leased BMW. He stepped out wearing a tight tank top, looking smug. He told me she didn't feel safe with me there and that I needed to leave because I was unstable. My wife nodded, fake tears streaming down her face, saying Mark was there to make sure she was safe. This was their play. Push me to violence. Get a restraining order. Kick me out of the house I paid for. I looked at Mark. I looked at my wife. I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. I told them they were right, grabbed one bag, threw it in my truck, and drove off. They thought they had won. They thought I was retreating. I drove straight to the PI's office. He had the file ready. He told me I wasn't going to believe it. They weren't just sleeping together. They were running a grift. I opened the folder. Photos of them kissing in the hotel parking lot. But then, copies of documents. Mark wasn't certified. His LLC was suspended for tax evasion. And the supplement she was buying? The PI had run the merchant ID. It was a shell company registered to Mark's residential address. She was funneling our money directly into his pocket to pay his rent. Over $15,000 in 6 months. The PI added one more thing. Mark was seeing 3 other women, all married, all clients. He was running the same script on all of them. I held the photos. I had everything. I texted my wife that I was staying at a hotel, and we could talk about the separation terms on Friday. I told her to be at the house at 6 p.m., and I'd bring the paperwork. She replied instantly that Mark would be there, because she wasn't being alone with me. Perfect. Friday rolled around. I spent the morning with my lawyer finalizing the petition for dissolution of marriage. We included a specific cause of action for the dissipation of assets. My lawyer was practically salivating, saying we were going to ask for a forensic accounting of all her spending and bleed her dry in discovery. I arrived at the house at 5:50 p.m. I parked on the street and walked in carrying a briefcase. They were sitting at the kitchen table. My wife had a glass of wine. Mark was drinking one of my protein shakes. The audacity was almost impressive. Mark told me to make it quick because she'd been through enough trauma. I sat down opposite them and said I agreed trauma was the right word. I told them I wanted to offer a settlement. I keep the house. She keeps her car. We split the retirement accounts. But I deduct the $15,000 she stole from the joint account. My wife laughed nervously and asked what I meant by stole. She said I wasn't keeping the house and that since I destroyed our marriage, Mark was going to move in to help with the bills. I asked if he was going to pay with the money he scams from his other clients, like Mrs. Henderson or the lady who runs a bakery on 5th. Mark's face went gray. The smug grin vanished. He stammered that he didn't know what I was talking about. I opened the briefcase and fanned the photos out on the table like a winning poker hand. The hotel kiss. The document showing his suspended business license. The list of other women the PI had identified. My wife stared at the photos. She picked up one of Mark kissing a blonde woman in a Porsche. The timestamp was 3 days ago, while my wife was crying about my imaginary affair. She whispered, asking who the woman was. Mark started yelling that I was faking it, that it was Photoshop. I slid the bank documents over regarding the shell company. I told them he'd been paid for supplements that don't exist, which is fraud. And since she used our joint account, she made me an accessory. I pulled out a drafted formal complaint to the district attorney regarding the financial fraud and embezzlement. I told them I had already sent a copy to the gym management where Mark freelanced and to the certification board he claimed to be part of. Mark stood up so fast his chair tipped over. He yelled that I couldn't do that, that it was his livelihood. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're overreacting. It's just a little accountability. It's part of the journey." Mark looked at my wife, then at the door. He said he had to go call his lawyer. My wife reached for his arm, pleading with him to tell me I was lying. Mark shook her off, yelling at her to get off him and that she didn't tell him I was crazy. He grabbed his keys and sprinted out the door. The front door slammed so hard it shook the frame. My wife sat there, the photos of her lover with other women spread out before her. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. She looked at me, her eyes wide, the realization of her absolute ruin crashing down. She whispered that he was using her. I told her yes, and that she was using me. She tried to destroy my reputation to cover her tracks. She kicked me out of my own house. She tried to backpedal, reaching across the table for my hand, saying she was manipulated and brainwashed, that she loved me and we could go to therapy. I pulled my hand away and told her the movers were coming tomorrow for her things. She had until noon. She wailed, asking where she was supposed to go. I stood up, headed for the door, and said, "I don't know. Maybe try Jim." The legal process that followed was brutal, fast, and entirely one-sided. Because I had proof of the financial fraud regarding the fake supplement company, my lawyer argued that not only was she liable for the $15,000, but her credibility was non-existent. We filed an estate that allowed for full consideration in asset division. The judge was an older woman who had zero patience for entitled behavior or financial deception. When the financial forensics came back, it was worse than I thought. She had opened a credit card in my name, something I hadn't caught yet because she hid the statements, and maxed out on business expenses for Mark, fancy dinners, hotel rooms, even a down payment on his lease. That was identity theft. I had a choice: press criminal charges for the identity theft and fraud, or use it as leverage for the divorce. I chose the latter to get it over with. I told her through our lawyers that she signs the house over to me entirely, takes her own debt plus the maxed out credit card debt she created in my name, and walks away with just her personal items and her car. If she refused, I would file a police report for the identity theft and fraud. She signed. She moved back in with her parents in a small town 3 hours away. Her reputation in our city was torched. I didn't have to say a word. The grapevine did the work. Mark, it turned out, had done this to the wrong woman. One of the other clients was the wife of a local police sergeant. Last I heard, he was facing multiple lawsuits and had moved 2 states over, working as a bartender. But the most satisfying part wasn't the legal victory. It was a social one. 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Vanessa texted me about a summer mixer at the gym. I went solo. I was in the best shape of my life. I walked in wearing a shirt that actually fit and felt a confidence I hadn't possessed in a decade. Vanessa saw me, walked over, and handed me a drink. She told me I looked lighter. I joked that I dropped about 130 pounds of dead weight. We took another photo that night, just a selfie at the bar. She posted it with a caption about client appreciation and my discipline being unmatched. My ex-wife still followed Vanessa. I knew she hadn't blocked her. She was too obsessed. I checked the story views later on my own account after resharing it. My ex-wife viewed it 4 minutes after it went up. Then I got a DM request from her. It just said, "You look happy." I didn't reply. I didn't block her. I just left it on read. That little read, receipt, was a final nail. It told her everything she needed to know. I saw her and I didn't care. I kept the house. I renovated the kitchen to remove the memory of that final confrontation. I turned the guest room into a home gym, though I still train with Vanessa 3 times a week. We aren't dating. I'm taking time for myself, but she's a good friend, a real friend. The entitlement my ex-wife and Mark showed was their downfall. They thought they could rewrite reality to suit their desires. They thought helping with a fitness journey was a magic phrase that absolved them of decency. They forgot that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. She wanted a fitness journey. She got one.